Stockton open cast mine is Solid Energy's largest coal mine. It's found in the heart of West Coast coal mining country, high on the Stockton Plateau north of Westport. It is a world-class coal resource, producing more than 1.5 million tonnes of high-quality, hard-coking coal for steelmakers around the world. It is the largest employer on the West Coast. In 2009, the operation of the mine was taken over by the Stockton Alliance, a joint venture between Solid Energy and Downer EDI Mining.
Every mine site tends to be unique, but Stockton is far more complex than most in terms of the environment that we have up here, the steep topography, the escarpment, the high rainfall, the very high quality coal and complex geological structure here. So Stockton really is one out of the box.
Mining is an integral part of West Coast history. For over 130 years, a combination of both underground and open cast mining has been carried out on the Stockton Plateau. During this time, mining methods have evolved and improved. Today, mining is a far cry from the mining practices of the last 100 years. Changes in technology and markets have meant that coal, that once would have been too difficult and expensive to extract, is now able to be mined. In 2007, Solid Energy embarked on one of its most technically challenging mining projects to date. The mining of the Mount Augustus ridgeline, a range of dramatic cliff faces overlooking steep, pristine conservation land. This would turn into a mining project that was one of the most unique of its kind found anywhere in the world.
The ridgeline is the top of an escarpment that rises virtually from sea level to an elevation of somewhere between 1,000 and 1,100 metres across the site. Through that escarpment we have the coal outcropping. If you were travelling along the highway between Westport and Granity, you could look up and you could see this very steep face with bluffs at the top of it. And if you were to look really carefully, perhaps with binoculars, you would actually see the coal outcropping through that cliff.
The coal under the Mount Augustus ridgeline was the highest quality coal available at Stockton and was essential to the ongoing life of the mine.
As Murphy might have it, it's the best coal that's remaining up at Stockton. It's very, very low ash, very, very good coking properties. It's some of the best in the world for steel making.
And it was the location of the coal, buried deep within the ridgeline, that would end up making this one of the most complicated and technically challenging mining projects Solid Energy had ever undertaken.
We're standing at about 950 metres elevation, just below a 25 metre cliff of very strong overburden. Immediately below that cliff is the coal seam, which is about 10 metres thick at this location. And almost immediately below that is a high priority dock reserve with some quite rare flora and fauna and a very sensitive environment.
In the 21st century, environmental responsibility is one of Solid Energy's top priorities.
Having the dock estate right beside us or right below that area of the escarpment we're mining has meant that we've taken a great deal of care not to contaminate the dock estate, whether it be through water, rock or sediment. It's meant that in areas where the escarpment has been very steep, we've installed rockfall barriers. They're quite significant structures, very expensive, have to be installed with helicopters and trained personnel to eliminate the risk of rockfall going beyond our lease boundary and destroying vegetation or having an effect on that dock estate.
Solid Energy's goal after mining is to return the land to a capability equal to that which existed prior to mining. In order to achieve this, an extensive environmental plan was required.
We started first and foremost with understanding what flora and fauna were present, if any, and I think it's a pretty well-known case, but we found a rare land snail in that location, and we went through a very intensive effort to recover and secure, relocate that snail. A lot of those snails, a few thousand now, have been re-released into the wild. A few more thousand are in captivity with Department of Conservation, so the fauna was cleared from the area. And we very carefully recovered all of the vegetation and soil by a technique we're pretty proud to say I think we've pioneered. We call it vegetation direct transfer, and that's the process of coming along with very specialised equipment, specialised buckets, and excavating pretty much a 300 to 400 millimetre soil profile, taking all of the rootstock, the mycorrhiza that exists in the soil, and of course the vegetation on top, and relocating that on a truck to another rehabilitation area and setting it down. So, you know, it might be akin to scraping the icing off the cake and putting it aside to ice a cake somewhere else.
Once the initial environmental work was completed, Solid Energy embarked on the formidable task of removing the coal from the ridgeline. The 8 to 10 metre thick seam was located between 10 and 30 metres below the surface of the escarpment.
In terms of mining, it's unlike any other mining on the plateau. It's almost a civil deconstruction exercise as opposed to what mining is generally about, which is moving bulk earth very cheaply. This is a very expensive and technically difficult exercise to recover it.
To recover the coal successfully and to protect the neighbouring dock estate, specialised excavation and blasting techniques needed to be utilised.
Our blasts on the ridgeline are always designed in much more detail than they do elsewhere on the mine. We always identify rocks that we're concerned about that might be on the edge and that we're worried about damaging. Our blasts are always designed around those rocks and the sort of risk factor that we think we might have. And they're specifically designed for each site that we go into, whereas a usual blast on the mine, they have a standard pattern that they often use. When we're designing a blast, we'll come up with the shot fire and the contractor and we'll walk over the blast. We'll pick areas that we're concerned about and that we know that we need to be careful with. We'll target areas that we think we can get good production from, and we'll specifically design a blast and place each hole and each package of explosive for that within those parameters. A perfect ridgeline blast is actually quite a disappointing thing to see. The aim is to just break the rock into fragments that are large enough that they don't fall apart and roll down the slope, but just small enough that we can handle them with an excavator. Once we've got them shot into that size, we try to pull them apart with a 45 tonne excavator is the kind of the scale that we're trying to shoot for. We really just want to crack the rock up just enough so that we can excavate it and no more. If we start moving rocks around and throwing them, then we've missed our objectives.
Due to the difficulties associated with mining the Mount Augustus ridgeline, a team of highly skilled excavator operators are required to remove the overburden.
The excavation you've seen on the ridgeline is quite difficult for the operators. They're working in tight work areas. They've got banks and high walls and things around them, so they need to be very aware of where they're working. And it's very hard on the machinery.
Once the coal has been successfully excavated from the ridgeline, it is blended with different quality coals from across the plateau in order to meet different customer specifications. It is then transported to the Nockawar rail loadout via the aerial ropeway. From there, it is taken by train across the Southern Alps to the port of Littleton, where it is shipped to some of the biggest steel-making companies in the world.
Once the coal's taken out, we stabilise any drainage works that we have. We complete removing any unstable rocks, or we make sure the whole area is safe, and then it's turned over to the rehabilitation crews for the mine.
Solid Energy has an environmental team dedicated to rehabilitation at Stockton Mine, and rehabilitation of the ridgeline has already begun.
That's the taking down, and then we've got to build back up then, and we've done that in one particular block already. We call that the A12 block, where we have successfully gone through that whole process, finished mining the coal, and we've now gone through the rehabilitation process, which has been importing soil, again planting native plants that are endemic to not just this region but also akin to the subalpine environment that the ridgeline is. So that's the process, down and up.
I think of this more as an environmental project than a mining project. Our goal ultimately is to get coal out at a reasonable cost, but that's a wee way down on our list of priorities. Everything we do up here is about protecting the environment and meeting our safety objectives.
The environmental rehabilitation of Stockton does not just involve flora and fauna. Over the last 4 years, Solid Energy has been committed to improving the quality of runoff water from the mine's main working areas.
Water management at Stockton has been an enormous project in itself, so first and foremost we're a coal mine, but we have a number of major projects on the go. And water management has been, as I say, a significant focus for us. We've had teams of personnel dedicated solely to that, so planning and designing the infrastructure we need to deliver our strategy, which is around realising a step change improvement, I guess, in the water quality discharging from the mine.
This has seen the construction of several large dams and sumps, which are used to settle out sediment. The largest, the Mangatini sump, holds up to 1 million cubic metres of water. These structures work in tandem with a series of smaller reservoirs and the water treatment plant, which removes the very fine particles of coal. Runoff affected by acid rock drainage is treated with acid neutralising materials. Lime is dosed into affected water in order to raise the pH and precipitate and remove dissolved metals. This treatment can cause temporary discoloration of the water, but does not cause any harm.
So we've had to come up with a very different solution to treat the effects of acid rock drainage as opposed to, say, the sediment effects in our waterways and our runoff. And our principal approach for treating acid rock drainage in our waterways is by constructing a lime dosing plant. It's an automated plant and it discharges or doses a lime slurry, and lime acts to increase the pH or raise the pH of the streams and makes it more livable, I guess, for species to survive and exist in those waterways.
Throughout the mining process, Solid Energy recognised the importance of meeting with local stakeholder groups on a quarterly basis. The Nockawar River Watch is one of those groups.
Solid Energy set up a consultation group between Riverwatch and the community, started having meetings every 2 or 3 months. They started working to clean the river up. They give us full reports on a regular basis, explained what they're up to. The two groups started working together because there's been a big move toward the environment and this river and cleaning it up, and there are some very good people in Solid Energy working in that direction.
I feel that now we've gained a great deal of confidence from the community in the work that's going on at Stockton, not just with the ridgeline but with other projects that we have up here.
The ridgeline will be progressively rehabilitated as mining proceeds.
Success in rehabilitation to us here at Stockton Mine is about thriving vegetation cover, good diversity, not just in plant species but in terms of the fauna or the animals that inhabited the area prior to disturbance as well. So we're looking for that whole ecosystem approach to what successful rehabilitation here is. We're not necessarily trying to return this to exactly what it was. We have requirements and our goal is really to return it to an equivalent land capability. So that might be exactly how it was, but it might be something else. It might be something that provides amenity values in another area, be that recreation, be that a different wildlife habitat. That's part of a planning and a consultation process that we've started and we're continually going through.
Mining of the Augustus Ridgeline is expected to take up to 4 years.
This is, as far as we can tell or have been able to find out, the only project like this that's ever been done in the world. I wouldn't say that we've developed any new techniques, but we certainly use them in situations which might not have been considered before, and in an intensity before as well.
Even though the mining and rehabilitation of the Augustus Ridgeline is a work in progress, Solid Energy is optimistic about the outcome.
Okay, well look, to date I think everyone can hold their heads really high in terms of the standards and the performance that's been achieved in that project. We've had no significant incidents there at all in terms of major water discharges or rockfall over the escarpment. In terms of managing and minimising the immediate impacts of mining and deconstruction, I think there would be widespread acceptance and acknowledgement that it's gone very well.
The mining processes that we're undertaking right now on the escarpment would easily qualify for world's best practice in terms of managing the environmental effects and recovering all of the coal that's available up there. So we've certainly come a long way over the last few years. Community expectations, I think, have changed significantly even in the last 5 years. And I think that we're certainly at the leading edge, if you like, of mining practice with what we're undertaking up there.